You're listening to the Future Tech Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies such as artificial intelligence, stem cells, 3D printing, gene editing, Bitcoin, blockchain, the microbiome, quantum computing, virtual reality, and exploring space are much closer than you might think. In fact, many early versions of these technologies are in play right now, and the companies that are using these technologies are the focus of this podcast. My goal for you, the listener, is to learn from these podcasts. You may very well learn something that may change the course of your life for the better, steer you towards a new career, or give you insight into addressing a thorny medical problem. Remember, this podcast and its content is informational in nature only. No medical, tax, legal, financial, or psychological advice is being given. If you enjoyed the podcast, please listen, subscribe, like, and tell your friends about it. Thank you. Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Future Tech Podcast and with the Secrets of Attorney Marketing Podcast. I have Lillquist, the co-founder of InCloudCounsel. The website is InCloudCounsel.com. So Lane, thanks for coming. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very good.
Oh, good. So tell me about InCloudCounsel. What's the company about?
InCloudCounsel was founded to solve this specific legal problem around routinely negotiated contracts. We kind of saw two worlds that really existed for people, businesses that deal with high volume, routinely negotiated contracts that need these done to a high quality. And we saw them either kicking it off to a big law firm or doing it in-house. And we saw a solution that was kind of much better than both of these solutions. And thus we set off to found this company and really solve this problem well. And so I'm happy to talk about that as much as you like.
Well, what are some of the drawbacks of doing it in-house versus, hiring a large law firm? And then we'll talk about how your solution improves on that.
Yeah, totally. So there's kind of a whole family of problems with both. For the big law side, what generally happens for these kinds of routinely negotiated contracts is they're given to a first-year attorney. You pay by the hour, and you don't really get great visibility into the work that's being done. So, with kind of a lot of inefficiency in this solution. And since they give this work to their first-year associates primarily, they churn those people every year. So you never build a long-term relationship with who's actually doing this work for you. And then on the in-house side, you generally have much more pressing, high value, important things for your business to be doing. And these routinely negotiated contracts need to get done to a high quality, but they aren't really the value driving work that an in-house legal team does for their own business. And so, our solution came in here to really put a lot of efficiency in this work stream and then add a ton of value through software on top of that.
So can you give me some details about how it works and what users will experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you'll start with InCloudCounsel. You'll start the process of talking to us about taking over your NDA negotiation work stream. And what we'll do is we build a process for how that document gets negotiated by your attorney team. And we'll set that all up for you so that we understand exactly, how to negotiate a document based on your client's preferences. And then we introduce you to a legal team to service all of your needs for this, who will be there to answer any of your questions throughout this whole process. And, get a solid playbook together for how to move forward on all of these work streams. And then from there, clients just simply forward us all of their NDAs, to negotiate for that one type of particular legal document. And then the attorney team picks that up, does the negotiation, and captures all of the data and analytics around that document once it has been finalized in our system. And then that is what we use to be able to provide additional value to the business teams that utilize our services and software.
Well, all right, what does that mean? What data do you collect? What analytics? And how is the handling of the NDA initially, and then the follow-up on it, and the storage of it, and the access to it, et cetera? Is that all different using your process?
Yeah. So, we are legal experts in every type of document that we negotiate, and we understand these documents to a high degree of specificity. And we understand what business terms are very important out of these. So we have a questionnaire that attorneys fill out after they have, negotiated a document to a final state. And then through that questionnaire, we're able to capture all of the important legal terms of a document in data form. And then that's used to give the business team reporting on, the status, of what the spread of terms that they end up agree to. It gives them ability to search through all these NDAs or other types of legal documents, based on whatever we're doing for that client, so that they can understand them from a compliance perspective. Are we meeting the terms of all of these contracts that we've negotiated, and so forth. And then all of this data is stored in our proprietary software platform that we've built that manages this work stream for attorneys. Attorneys come onto our platform. We set them up with an email account and, walk them through some basic technology and security best practices and give them training on these things. And then we, give them some training on our software and get them up and going. And then from there, they are able to keep track of the state of all of these contract negotiations based on the type of work that we're doing. We have specific workflows designed for the different kinds of contracts and the different kinds of customers that have these contracts negotiated for. And then, through that whole platform, we're able to deliver our services to our clients. I think you had some more questions in there, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, how much workflow can you handle? Is it, are you able to take small firms that have limited personnel and help them scale up, for instance, if they have dozens or hundreds of documents that need negotiating?
So, in terms of our clients are generally large financial institutions or, these customers that have contracts that need to be repetitively negotiated. And then we work with, small boutique firms that have a lot of experience in corporate law, and we work with them to do all of the work on our platform. So, we have hundreds of attorneys that work all across the globe so that we can service, the needs of our clients. And we'll pretty much build an attorney team to whatever size of business need that any client has. You need 1,000 engagement letters negotiated every single year. We'll build the attorney team that we need to be able to provide that for you. And then from there, we'll bring a handful of resumes in. We'll act as a bit of a dating service through this whole process to get them set up with their clients. And we really try to build long-term relationships between the clients and the attorneys that are working on our platform. For kind of a lot of reasons. We want the clients to have a good, consistent work experience. And, one of the big values that we give to all the attorneys that work on our platform is that there's this consistent work stream that's going to be there every single month. It's not like a billable hour that they're trying to drum up that's got a lot of variability. There might be a lot this month and not very many the next month and so forth. Out there in private practice, it's a bit of a volatile game sometimes. So our business comes in and adds just consistency to that.
What about if you're not an attorney? Can you use the services if you need to negotiate an NDA for your sales team or several of them, or NDAs for other things or other contracts?
So our InCloudCounsel is primarily set up for businesses that have high volume contracts negotiated. We aren't set up to negotiate one NDA for somebody. We want to find businesses that'll need 100 NDAs a year or 500 NDAs a year. There's all those kinds of legal work streams that exist where these are routinely negotiated. So that's the kind of client that we go after, and it's really based around any kind of contract that requires legal skill to negotiate it, and is done in a high volume fashion, something that you're doing all the time. So whether it's a service agreement as you're negotiating service agreements with your customers, engagements letters, non-disclosure agreements if you're in the financial world, and all sorts of things like that.
Okay, it would include non-competes perhaps, or other high volume agreements, maybe commercial leases.
Yep, exactly. And there's even a whole nother side of our business that we have where we'll do document abstracting for clients that have large and very complex documents. So this is kinds of things where, maybe you're a private equity shop and you have done tons of investments over the course of your business's history. And you've got all of these, purchase agreements for these businesses that you've bought and are managing and, have ongoing, legal responsibilities for. And a lot of times these documents are just sitting in some folder in some secure location, and they're not very accessible. So when somebody needs to understand a term in one of those documents, they either pay their law firm to go and read the document, find the term, and get what they need, or they have to sort through that all themselves. So another service that we offer these kind of clients is document abstracting, where we go through in just great detail and build out every important legal question that exists for that contract. And then we will have an attorney go in there, answer all of them, and then link that information to the source text in the contract. And then that way, your business team, whenever they have a question, instead of paying a lawyer by the hour, they can just go in there and run a search by themselves and find the information. And we've seen a lot of clients really find that to be valuable, to have all of their, the data that exists in these contracts be free for accessibility and searching. And then that way, even if they need to really understand the underlying language, when they go to that question in our platform, it'll just pull that exact relevant section in the contract up for them.
Well, what's an example or two of that?
The one that I gave was like a purchase agreement. This is a very long, bespoke document that was, is exactly what the big law firms out there in the world are set up to do really, really well. 100, 200, 400 pages long, very long agreement that, describes the whole situation of buying a company. And in there, so the example, to dive in a little bit deeper is, what was the purchase price? What were all the lenders that were involved? What were their names? What were our interest rates? What were the, covenants for this and that? Were there any carve-outs? And we just go through the whole document and produce a very detailed summary based on these questions that we have. And this is built by our attorney team that understands these documents very well. And then that summary is provided to, whoever consumes it on the business side. And then, while they're looking at that in our software, if they're looking at a specific term in that summary, they just click right there, pulls up the source language in the document right beside the summary. And then that way they can fully understand exactly whatever they're needing to do, whether they're wondering if they can work with this lender, if they're just looking up past rates so that they can get better negotiation terms on their current work that they're doing. Hey, we have gotten this rate, the last 4 times we've negotiated with this lender. So why are you guys trying to push us beyond that? It gives them the power to have access to all of the information that exists in those documents.
What about comparing boilerplate agreements with normal clauses and looking for ones that are unusual? Is that part of the service?
There's a boilerplate clauses. We have attorneys that are dealing with these every time. So there's a whole playbook that's designed for how these documents are negotiated, just on every level. So if there's some non-standard term, there's going to be a path which the attorney knows how to follow to negotiate that point. Whether they'll understand whether they can accept it, or if it's non-standard, they might have to, get the deal team's perspective on it before they can move forward, and so forth. I almost think when you say that you're talking about machine learning. What can happen?
Right.
What
I don't
kinds
know
of
if you
things can be
incorporate that
done
at all.
with machine learning. And absolutely, we incorporate machine learning into kind of everything that we can. It is a technology that is really going to continue to become more ingrained in literally every kind of thing that we do in the world. There aren't really technology businesses and then other businesses in, today's world. Really, we're all technology businesses, or we're going to be. And the legal is by far no exception to that, although they may be more behind than some of the other, industries that are out there. And machine learning has so much potential to make a lawyer's job more simple, take out some of the really tedious things of, combing through an entire agreement for one term, when, you can use machine learning to just be able to highlight the most probable terms that, the most probable places where that term would exist in a document right from the get-go. And, this has the power to just kind of greatly make attorneys more efficient. I mean, I would like to say, they're able to do more because of this, if you can remove some of that busy work. So we really try to drive efficiency in all of these processes in every way, shape, and form that we can.
What about e-discovery or assisted e-discovery? Are you set up to help with that if a firm has thousands or millions of documents to go through?
Our business doesn't really work with that kind of thing at all. There's a ton of e-discovery players out there in the market, and they're all doing interesting things too with similar kinds of technologies to go and do these kinds of documents. But we're really specifically focused on contracts that require negotiation by a smart human being, with sophisticated parties on both ends. And so this is really like our bread and butter. And, to that extent, we don't really touch the e-discovery world part of the legal, purview at all.
Well, very good. So is this geared for small firms or large firms? When you look at the cost structure of doing it, is it pretty cost efficient?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's pretty cost efficient. Like, what we look to do is is to partner with firms that are, small firms that are out there in the world, that are usually looking to get up and running, coming out of like the big law world and so forth. And, we partner with these attorney teams, and it's even different, kind of in how the different jurisdictions of other countries work and so forth. So we kind of have to figure out every jurisdiction as kind of a new place, Doing this kind of work in the UK is a lot different than doing it here in the US and so forth. But we target, individual attorneys and small teams to take on like InCloudCounsel work as part of their work stream so that they can really supplement their business. And then we see attorney teams that are like able to grow with us, where they start to hire associates and start to really, grow their practices through the work that they take on from our platform. And it's pretty awesome to see the success that the attorneys are having on our platform and the amount of a difference that it makes for them. And there's kind of like a bunch of different kind of buckets of types of attorneys out there in the world. You've got the people who are out there building their practice, they want to grow something on their own, and really do interesting, unique work. And in that case, we come in to really help them, keep the lights on in their business and have a very consistent revenue stream so that they can go out and do all of the interesting things that they want to. But there's also a whole nother class of attorney that really finds our platform valuable for them. And that's the kind of attorney who has another pursuit that they want to take on in their life. Whether that's raising children or, starting an unrelated to legal business, they want to pursue all of these things in life that are not available to them if they're a corporate attorney. I mean, the corporate attorney model is, pretty long hours and very dedicated life to that practice. And it doesn't leave much for flexibility. So we're really trying to remove the geographic constraints of doing, high value, interesting work with respectable clients. And we want to remove just all of the barriers for people to be able to do that kind of work. And that's in a big way what InCloudCounsel is set up to do.
Any specific comments you've gotten from some of the clients that you have that you thought were interesting?
I mean, it's awesome to see this really work well, and for this kind of work, it's more along the lines of when you're doing it really well, it's quiet. So in a certain way, when the machine works, everything is quiet and hunky-dory and running smoothly. And then, clients kind of only really get invested if there's like an issue, which, those do come up from time to time, and we're well set up to handle any of those as well. But, had clients come to us be like, oh my God, can you do this for this new kind of document? I'm like, I've never heard of that before. Let's see what we can figure out. And, sure enough, that turns into whole new lines of business for us, which is pretty awesome.
That's great. So what's the best way for people to reach out and ask questions and, think about finding out more about the product?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to learn more about us and get in touch with us is to go to our website, InCloudCounsel.com. And from there, you can really get a good idea of who we are and what we're about. And, drop us a line. We'd love to talk to you, whether you're interested in offloading one of your legal work streams to us, or if you're an attorney out there looking for, interesting, high value work with very sophisticated clients and looking to grow your practice.
Well, very good. Well, Lane, thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it as well.
You're listening to the Future Tech Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies such as artificial intelligence, stem cells, 3D printing, gene editing, Bitcoin, blockchain, the microbiome, quantum computing, virtual reality, and exploring space are much closer than you might think. In fact, many early versions of these technologies are in play right now, and the companies that are using these technologies are the focus of this podcast. My goal for you, the listener, is to learn from these podcasts. You may very well learn something that may change the course of your life for the better, steer you towards a new career, or give you insight into addressing a thorny medical problem. Remember, this podcast and its content is informational in nature only. No medical, tax, legal, financial, or psychological advice is being given. If you enjoyed the podcast, please listen, subscribe, like, and tell your friends about it. Thank you.